welcome back to the Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I am pretty good, sir. How are you?
I am very well indeed. I've only watched one film this week. Been busy work and stuff, but you've watched quite a few, and we also have one that we're returning to, probably spoilerific this time. So, do you want to kick us off with a movie?
Sure. I will start with Horizon then.
Horizon,
Horizon,
the vanity project of Kevin Costner.
Yeah, Horizon American Saga Chapter 1.
So, will there ever be a Chapter 2? How much has he filmed? He may have made it.
He's already done Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is already in. But I've got This has been a plan of his since '88. He's had this apparently.
So I hear, yes.
And could never get the backing for it. And I think his career was kind of on a wane. Until he got Yellowstone, and I think Yellowstone put him back on the sort of map again, and sort of put people, increased interest in him again. I think so. I think that he was able to get the money for it this way. And if I'm right, I think it cost like about 100 mil to do, and it only made like 30.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's
so
like fucking Disney numbers, man.
Yeah, and I know that so the first one was it's already been released. And I think the second one was supposed to be released by now. I think it was supposed to be released by this month originally, but I think they put it back, and now I'm not even sure it's going to be in cinemas, which is a shame. So I don't know whether we're going to get the other 3 or 4 parts, but the number 2 is already done. So obviously, my guess is they're going to put it on
streaming or something, I guess.
Right.
If it had gone to cinema, I probably would have watched it, because I really was in the mood for a Western, and I thought the trailer looked, if nothing else, visually stunning.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like I probably would have gone to the cinema to see it. But now I guess I'll find out whether that would have been a mistake. Take it away.
Yeah. He put his own money. He put 38 million of his own money in it, so it's. He was willing to back it, which says something. So this basically it's so it's 3 hours, and it's a multi-stranded story. So there's a lot of characters in here. So it starts 1859, I think it is when it starts, and it sort of leaps about a little, not sort of too many years, but it leaps a little. But it's kind of like the start of what I think will become the sort of town of Horizon.
Right.
So in the beginning, you've got a bunch of
It's quite interesting, really, because he's had this idea since the 90s, but this does kind of sound a bit like Yellowstone, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really does.
In a way, it's kind of odd that, there's definitely some similarities there.
There's a lot of similarities to the 1883, I think it is. It's the
prequel.
Some prequel. So it's. So we've got these white people sort of putting down measurements and squaring up for sort of housing in this place. There's only just like a couple of, almost like one family at first, and then you see them get murdered by Indians, and then it's this sort of, I think he was like he looked like some sort of preacher turns up, and it's like there are these posters for this Horizon place. Obviously, at the moment, it doesn't exist, but it's like there's land out there, and go and claim it, sort of thing. So then you move a couple of years, and there's some sort of tents and stuff, and then there's a big attack, and you've got this other story of Gina Malone's character, who is it looks like she is the sort of, how would you put it, unwilling mistress of this gang leader,
right?
Who she shoots and escapes with a child.
Okay.
but he doesn't die, and then the family come looking for her.
Sure.
So you've got that story. You've got the story of the Apache that are there as well.
Mm.
And then you've got another story which is a wagon train coming from a different territory, sort of there, and that's going through the sort of different Indian territory sort of thing. And then you've got the sort of survivors of this in this settlement. So you've got a lot of things to keep track of, and you've got, I mean, the cast is amazing. So you've got Costner himself, Sienna Miller, Sam Worthington, Jenna Malone, Tatanka Means, Owens Crow Shoes, Danny Houston, Abby Lee, Michael Rooker, Will Patton. It has a huge, brilliant cast, and it's a Costner film, so it looks amazing.
It's very long. It looks amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's really long and it's really beautiful.
Uh-huh.
It really should have been a TV show. I think.
I think we expressed this opinion on the show before, right?
Yeah, cut up in TV form. I think it would have been better.
Mm.
There are a couple of sort of time jumps that you're not quite sure how far they've gone and what the relationship is now. And some of the characters, it seems like they've sort of moved them along quite quickly. And, trying not to sort of spoil anything, but you sort of think, oh, well, okay, I kind of see why they would do that, but
yeah,
how quick has it been since this happened, sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's sort of, it suffers from that thing that sort of sometimes books have when they've got a lot of characters. Like Game of Thrones suffered from this massively for me, and that was you're chomping at the bit to get to the characters you like.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah.
And it's you've got to read 5 chapters of characters you don't give a shit about before you get to the ones
to
you
get
like.
to the one you care about.
Yeah, and this slightly feels like that. There's a sort of, I want to know what happens to this character now. Why are we still with them? It's like, this is, and then there's some sort of weird moments where I see what you're doing, because there's a couple of sort of comedic moments that are like, oh, okay, this is a bit weird, but because I know, I see what you're doing. He wants to do this sort of, it's supposed to be 4 movies. Yeah. And it has that sort of How the West Was Won sort of feel to it, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters in that movie, and there's a lot of,
Well, this is very much about the founding of effectively the West, isn't it? And then
it's the whole sort of, I get, sort of Oregon Trail-y type sort of thing. And it's sort of, I'm not saying it's hard to keep track of all the characters, but there's a lot going on. And by the end, I mean, they have none of the strands of the story have come together at all yet.
Right.
So
that's quite frustrating after 3 hours.
Yeah, it does.
You want
very
something,
much...
don't you? You at the climax of your movie, you want at least some of those strands to be resolved going into the next film, because otherwise it just feels like an exercise in frustration, really.
Yeah.
To get nowhere.
It ends with this big old montage of the next film, like at the end of Back to the Future 2, when you get the coming next with the Back to the Future 3. It felt very much like that. You've got the whole bits and pieces of what's to come, and you're like, wow, this is a really odd choice to sort of end your movie where nothing's sort of been settled properly, and then start showing us, oh, there's a town now, and that character's there, and that character's there, and that character's interacting with that character, and there's a whole new set of characters. Like, I know Giovanni Ribisi is going to be in it, and at some point, and I think he's going to be the big bad guy.
Okay.
it's like you get shown sort of him, and it's like, this is so weird. It just feels really odd that the way they ended it and the way they've done this is just,
Yeah, it feels like next season on
yeah,
Horizon.
yeah.
But
Really
but
odd.
but again, even a TV show, even if this was done in a TV show format, you would still want to resolve some threads by the
Yeah,
end, like at least something.
yeah. It's
It feels really odd to me to not to leave everything dangling like that.
yeah. It's you've got a couple
You
of
know,
sort
because
of things that
if you
set
look at
out, and
even looking at trilogies,
mm,
you know, okay, like they don't fucking throw the ring into Mount Doom in the end of Fellowship.
yeah.
But they have achieved. They have, you know, things have happened. They're moving forward. They've left the Shire.
It's
They've
got a very definite ending.
formed.
It's got
You know,
it's the breaking apart of the Fellowship, and
yeah, and then they formed the Fellowship. They've broken the Fellowship.
yeah,
They all have a new mission now as a result of the events in that film. Things have
yeah.
changed. But we know where they are. It's not all just dangling threads that are completely unanswered and you know, left.
But I mean, it's they basically. I mean, you know where they're going. It's not it's not
Yeah.
rocket science to go. Okay, they're all going to end up in Horizon. That's
Sure.
the overall goal is that they will all end up in Horizon at some point. But it did feel a little sort of, okay, we've got all this, we've spent all this time with these characters, but it just felt a little, how do I put it? Not flat, but just almost lackluster, I would say. But that sounds too harsh. It sort of, it felt like they didn't know what sort of point to sort of end bits on. You know what I mean? It felt like,
Yeah, maybe it's a problem with the edit.
possibly.
You know, if they filmed at least 2 parts in one, I wonder if the edit was just kind of a bit.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But you sort of you get the sort of, it concentrates on one sort of bit, and then sort of almost halfway through you get introduced to the wagon train.
Yeah.
And sort of and this whole new set of characters, and it's sort of like, okay, cool, okay, I'm fine with that. And then you sort of go back to these other characters, and it's like all of a sudden they're in a camp, and try not to spoil anything here, but like one of the characters is already planning something with another character, a character you've not seen before, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's gonna happen, right? Okay, it's like, how much time has passed? Last time we saw these two characters, they were just sort of like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Now they're, it feels a little disjointed at times. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm not saying it's like really, really hard to follow, but it just felt a little like, oh, okay, we're here now, we're doing this, right? Okay, fine, I guess. So it just feels a little sort of jarring sometimes with the way they sort of move characters on, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're not quite sure how much time has passed and how far along they are. And there's one definite jump at the beginning where you get, it's like, I think because it starts 58 and then I think it moves to 61 or 62. So you have that, and then you get the sort of beginning of the Civil War, because a load of stuff, a group of soldiers they go off to sort of fight, sort of thing, leaving this sort of this small garrison at what will be near Horizon. But I mean, the thing is it is epic in scale.
Yeah.
It is beautiful, and obviously all of the bloody performances are great.
There's no weak spot in that cast. So
yeah, there's no weak sort of people here. It's all really bloody good.
Yeah.
I just think it's the wrong format for it. I think it would have been nice to have had it
a mini-series.
Cut up into sort of chunks would have felt a little more coherent, a little more together, I think, than this. And it's not bad at all. It sounds like I'm really sort of hammering it, but it's not. It's just it will really test people's patience because it is 3 hours long and it doesn't feel like it has a sort of proper ending.
Yeah, like I said, I think after that amount of time, you would want something at least.
Yeah,
I'm not suggesting they resolve everything. Obviously, you have a 4-part.
Yeah, but no,
series.
It felt like it should have had some sort of something, like a junction point or something.
Yes,
that would have sort of, I don't know, maybe just brought some of the characters together, or because then the decision to sort of go, oh, well, here's a load of things from the next one, and you're like, why are you showing me this? I don't want to. I don't want to just see these characters here. I want to see them get there. But
you want to see it. Yeah,
it's very odd choice. But if you're willing to sort of, if you're a Costner fan, I think you'll enjoy this. If you're a big epic Western fan, you will.
Well, I'm a fan of both of these things, so there is that.
Yes. So it's got so much going for it. It has all these things. It's just it will really try your patience if you're not into long, quite slow movies.
Yeah.
Because this is a very long. They're not hurrying to get where they're going. They're not.
Sure.
They're setting up a lot, and by the end, you're left with many questions. And I mean that's fine because you do want this. I certainly will watch the next one. And I'd almost be tempted to go to the cinema to see the next one actually, just to see the the beauty on the big screen.
Yeah, I mean the trailer looks stunning. In terms of the cinematography, the trailer looked great.
Yeah, and I mean all the performances are good, and I would heartily recommend it for those for Costner and epic Western fans.
Yeah.
For anybody else, I would probably say give it a miss because
which it sounds like people have, unfortunately for
Costner. Yeah.
And
I think more people will, a lot more people are going to see it on the, on pay-per-view sort of thing, but it's a lot. It's a big ask, I think.
It is in the days of home streaming. I think when you're approaching the 3-4 hour mark, people are much more likely to think, well, I can watch it at home, then I can watch it in parts like a series. I can take breaks. I can, I'm not sat in the cinema for 3-4 hours. Because, especially now you're dealing with the TikTok generation who won't sit through more than a minute. So and people are so connected to smartphones and all of that stuff now. They've got to look at their phone every 5 minutes. So the thought of sitting there for 3 hours without looking at a phone is like alien to so many people.
And it does, although there are some sort of modern sensibilities in it.
Sure.
There's some sort of scenes where there's sort of harmonious stuff that you do sort of think, okay, would that be
the case? Yeah.
There's nothing really jarring or anything like that.
No, artistic interpretation, and as long as it's not super jarring, like you said.
Yeah, it's just a few sort of bits that you just go, okay. But overall, it is a very old-fashioned Western. It is very much like in vein of that. Those big sort of epic Westerns, like How the West Was Won and stuff like that. So. If you can't sit through How the West Was Won, which is, again, I think that's probably about 3 hours long.
It's getting on there, yeah.
Then this really isn't for you. But I highly recommend it to people who think they could probably cope with it.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
If you compare it to Costner's last Western. Open Range.
Oh, I love Open Range. We've covered Open Range on this show.
We've covered Open Range, and we love Open Range. That is a very
That
tight
is
story.
It's also short by his standards for a Western. It's quite
It's
a tight, short story for him.
Exactly.
It's pacey.
And so I think, that if I was to recommend a Western of Costner's to people, I would say
Open range. Yeah.
over this, because that is very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
It does what you want from a Western. This one is there's a lot more working parts, and there's a lot more going on, and a lot more to keep track of, and a lot more to sort of,
Yeah.
I would say enjoy, but that all depends on,
on your who you
these
are.
things.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So I did love it. There's a lot to love on it.
Yeah.
It is a little messy, but excuse me. I would recommend it with the caveat that it's a long movie, and it's not your average Western, I would say. So make of that what you want.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I will definitely be checking out Horizon, especially now it's at home. So
yeah, and I will go to see the second one. I think probably in the cinema this time. Well, if it's available in the cinema, it's probably not going to be. But I will.
I would imagine not. But yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, I watched Alien Romulus last weekend. Yeah, no, well, yes, 2 weeks ago, when it came out. Debut weekend, premiere weekend. Me and some friends went to see Alien Romulus. I think I said to you before, it was, I thought I was done. I fucking hate Prometheus. I fucking hate Covenant even more. Yeah. I don't think they can ruin the Alien franchise at this point. I was like, I don't care. I don't want to watch it. Saw the trailer, started seeing the practical effects. Saw that it was Fede Alvarez, who I quite like. Don't Breathe is like 50% great. Which ironically is how I feel about this film, but we'll get to that in a minute. I
was done. I get it. Done.
I get it. I said this is my last one. If this one's awful, I am not watching another. That's basically the attitude I went in with. Trailer looked good, good director. I'll give it a go. Can they redeem it? Half and half for me, honestly. So effectively here we have a film set between Alien and Aliens. So it's between the destruction of the Nostromo and the waking of Ripley, however many years later. 8 years later? 100 years later? Something like that. Anyway, in between that time now, we're filling in that space because we have to fill in all space. We can't have any mystery. We see a load of nonsense that makes absolutely no sense in the context of Alien happen. A Weyland-Yutani expedition turns up to the wreckage of the Nostromo. All looks very cool. None of it makes any sense. They collect the big chap, the alien from Alien, who is like encased in some
carbonite
or organic matter. It's like it's like it's gone into some kind of hibernated state to try and save itself in the vacuum of space, kind of thing. Is what I think the film's getting at.
Yeah.
They take it and then we cut to meet Rain, who is
when you say wreckage of the Nostromo, how intact are we talking here?
Oh, there's bits and pieces everywhere. It's not very intact at all.
Oh, okay, because
no, it's very much exploded, but to my mind, it was fucking vaporized, exploded.
I don't think there should be anything left of the Nostromo.
Well, let's put it this way: they couldn't allow any doubt as to what you were looking at, so they had to show a bit of the wreckage that said Nostromo on it.
Of course, So we're talking Death Star in whatever fucking awful
Star Wars sequel. Yes, where
you're
like,
you can see that that's like, oh, that's clearly part of the deflector disc, the gun disc or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, it's like, right, yeah. Again, how the fuck is that existing?
None of it really makes sense. But I was like, okay, fine. This is your intro. I'm not gonna write you off immediately. doesn't make
I mean,
sense.
how long were they searching for the fucking alien though? Because what do they have, an alien detector?
Well, that's the thing. I guess they know where the Nostromo exploded, and that's about it.
Christ, don't they?
But well, I think the idea from what I've seen of Fede Alvarez, I think he's basically said that Ash was feeding information back constantly. So I guess they had an idea of whereabouts they were, and I guess Mother may be feeding back as well.
Okay, I buy that.
It's kind of like, okay, I can kind of buy you finding the location roughly. But it would have taken them forever to get there, like 100 years or something, to get to that point to find the thing, right? Or like 50 years or something. They do say at some point that they were looking for many years. So whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it's the intro, and I'm like, okay, fine. So we're then introduced to Rain, who is the orphan of some miners on this planet, and it's Weyland-Yutani run planet where they're all basically forced to work in this promise that one day they might get off planet. But of course it's all rigged to where they'll never get off planet. I think a few people get out every now and again just to kind of, in that Running Man kind of style where they're like, oh, look at these people, they're happy. Rain desperately wants to see the sun. She's never seen the sun before because she was raised on this planet, and it's they have to reference aliens, so it looks like aliens. It's all raining all the time and horrible. But in fairness, I guess they're terraforming. You could argue it's.
What I love about the whole sort of alien Blade Runner-y type sort of universe is, why aren't there any nice colony planets? Where are the really nice, happy, sunny ones? You never see them.
Well, they don't exist. I often, but you say that, and then I was playing like Cyberpunk, which I actually really like as a game. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
But even to this day, when I play Cyberpunk, I'm like, I don't like it in the day though. Like, it needs to be nighttime and preferably raining. Like, that's just how I like my Cyberpunk dystopia. Thank you very much.
I agree. Well, Night City should always
it's
be. It's
called Night City, for fuck's sake.
Exactly, yeah.
So anyway, Rain is trying desperately to get off planet. She's saved enough space bucks, or not space bucks. She's worked long enough. I guess after a certain amount of time, she saved enough money to get off planet. But they're like, oh, the Weyland-Yutani woman there is like, oh, actually, and she comes up on screen that she's kind of eligible, and they just change it, and they're like, oh no, sorry, there's a shortage of staff, so you've got to wait another 6 years. You've got to work another 6 years.
Jesus.
No, which I kind of like. I was liking all of this stuff. This was like, okay, it's Weyland-Yutani. They are assholes.
Yeah,
exactly. That makes perfect sense, and it's basically indentured servitude. They're all stuck on this planet. The idea is that you can get off the planet if you've got a ship. The problem is that space travel in the Alien franchise, is reliant on going into cryo, and a lot of these ships just don't have cryo sleep pods.
There's no speed in the Alien universe.
Sorry?
There's no warp speed in the Alien universe.
So what you do is you go into stasis, and it's established in this that the stasis stuff is really expensive and not widely available at all. So they're effectively stuck. They can get off planet, but they ain't going to go very far because there's nothing there. She's got an adopted brother called Andy, who is an android. Andy the android.
Andy the Andy.
And he is defective. He's one of the first models of synthetics, and he's got like an error in his programming. But her father, Rain's father, programmed. Sorry,
is he really old then?
No, he looks young, but he's an old model. Yeah, he's been around for a while.
He's a really old model because
Ash, in Alien, Ash was like, they didn't know he was a cyborg or anything.
They knew what they were.
Yes, they knew of them. Yeah. So I don't know how old he is, but he's an original model, and he's defective and kind of rubbish. He's got an error, but her father programmed him to protect her. That's what he did. That's what he does. He's just not very smart. He lacks social awareness, and he lacks a lot of skills, but he is there to protect her. She gets a communication from, I think it's her ex-boyfriend, who has found a derelict spacecraft in orbit. They've discovered this craft in orbit, and he thinks it's a Weyland-Yutani vessel. He thinks it will have cryopods on it. So their plan is to take a ship up to this spaceship. Turns out to be a space station, but to take a ship up to this spaceship, steal the cryopods, and then they can go wherever they want. Rain can go to the place that she's always wanted to go. They need Andy to come along because he is technically, broken or not, still a Weyland-Yutani synthetic, and will be able to access Mother and get access to the ship, and presumably unlock a lot of the things they'll come across.
Yeah.
So ultimately, she agrees to this. They have a ship. That doesn't seem to be a problem, and they don't. I was kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about them just having a ship, because I thought these ships were massively expensive. But fine, they've got a ship. They just don't have cryopods. So they take the ship up, quickly discover
the values mute if they can't go anywhere. So
yes, but you would imagine that
if
fuel.
If it's a colony and they have ships,
yes,
that's probably how they got there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can kind of buy it that they have or they in fact they use ships to travel around the planet potentially. That can potentially go into orbit. But just without the cryopods, they can't go too far anyway. So anyway, they head up there, taking a pregnant woman because that's sensible. I guess she wants to. You just know. The thing is, it's like, okay, it makes sense because they're trying to get her away as well. It's already kind of established that basically both of her parents died of fucking black lung or something, now she's gonna have to work the mines because her previous job was doing something else, and they were like, oh no, you can work in the mines now. You're old enough. So it was like, okay, so she's, they're effectively gonna die horrible deaths and never leave the planet. So they decide to jump at the chance. They go up, discover it's a space station, not a ship as they thought, and they dock, and hilarity ensues. The station is fucked. It is a Weyland-Yutani station. It's in a bad way. They of course. Sorry.
Everybody's dead, Dave.
Everybody's dead, Dave. They get into the station. There's shenanigans, ship crash and stuff. Well, very, very conveniently, the ship crashes, but it crashes into another part of the station and is fine for later on when we need it. As you do. And so, they then are on the station. You've seen it in the trailer. There's something in the water thing. They discover facehuggers. Basically, the big chap has been taken to this station, and they started doing experiments on it. Apparently, Big Chap woke up at some point and killed a bunch of people. But in any case, they also have grown facehuggers that are in like stasis things that get awakened by their presence and stuff, and effectively they then need to escape. That's the idea. That's the general premise. Lots of facehuggers, quite a few aliens. They find Rook, who is a synthetic.
Yeah.
And I said...
And I've seen the pictures.
I audibly said, oh, for fuck's sake. And Ben burst out laughing next to me, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, why? The problem is, there's so much of this film where, like, right, so Rook, it looks fucking horrible. They've basically got a voice actor who does a very good job voice acting Ian Holm, and they've got this terrible CGI looking Ian Holm.
Yeah.
Execution is terrible. The actual performance and the plot works quite well. I didn't dislike his character and the fact that he is a version of Ash being on the station. It didn't bother me. I actually thought it worked quite nicely. Ian Holm is long dead. I don't know why. Like, it works from a narrative perspective. It just looks horrible, and it always feels gross when they do this. Yeah. I think it would have been so much better. When I left the cinema, I said to Ben, like, it would have been much better if they'd used Bishop. Because you could have had Lance Hendrickson, who is alive, way easier to de-age Lance Hendrickson than to bring someone back from the dead.
Yeah.
And do you know what would have been really good? It would have subverted your expectations because you'd see Bishop and be like, he's friendly. And then he wouldn't be. And that would be more interesting. You meet Rook and you're like, evil. Clearly, like immediately. I know not to trust this fucker. But anyway, the execution is terrible, but the character himself of Rook is fine. They use him to find out what happened. Really, they activate him. He's real messed up, and that was the other thing as well. Like he's really fucked up. Like he's like broken in half, and there's bits of him all over the place. And it's like, why didn't you just really mess up his face? And then you could have done like half of his face or a part of his face, and you would have known it was an Ash, and it would have hidden the horrible CGI. You would have had the voice. It would have been fine. Instead of doing that, his face is perfect though, because it looked terrible. Work within your budget, I guess, if you can't really pull off. And I still have yet to see any of these things work well. These CGI back from the dead things, they all look terrible.
There's always something just. Well,
this is one of the worst ones though. Like honestly, this is one of the worst ones I've seen. This is way worse than Leia. This is way worse than Tarkin. Like, this is way worse. Like, this looks real bad. Like, distractingly bad. But fine. I think
the Leia one worked slightly better because they put the features over
and it was
her
brief.
daughter.
She turns around and it says one word. It's fine.
Yeah, it's brief, and I think but they put the features over her daughter, which sort of works
it's
a
similar
bit better,
bone structure, similar features.
Yeah. Still horrible.
It's still horrible. And of course, the thing with Tarkin, they completely fucked up was the lighting, which was bizarre. That was a bizarre choice. I saw an interview with the director, and they were like, "Oh, well, originally we were going to do it we were going to light it based on the scene, and we did that, but it didn't look like Tarkin because Tarkin was always seen in this light, so we did it in this light instead." And I'm like, "So you lit him different from the fucking scenes lit, so." You just made it look even worse. Like now it really doesn't blend in. Like what are you doing?
Now you're making an issue. Now you're making an issue
that didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I actually quite like the which movie is it? Is it Rogue One where you see him at one? And it was the guy who played Scorpius, I think. With perspective.
No, that's episode 3, isn't it? The end of episode 3.
Oh, is that the end of episode 3?
He's just in the background on the when they're making the Death Star.
Yeah, and have you seen the pictures of him?
No.
With the perspective,
he looks fine in the background though.
It looks okay actually. From as long as you don't get too close.
Yeah, which they didn't. They had no intention of getting too close, so it kind of works. But anyway, Andy receives an upgrade as a result of connecting to the station. They burn a new disc for him and put it in his brain, and it updates him. And obviously updating him completely changes his personality. Now he acts like an android should act, or a synthetic should act, and is effectively going to be evil now because he's just working for the corporation. He's been updated and he's going to do what he's programmed to do.
Yeah,
which is serve Wayland Yutani and ensure the success of the mission. So there's that going on, which is probably the strongest part of the film. I
have heard that he's probably the best thing in it.
Holy shit. David Johnson as Andy.
Yeah.
The movie's worth watching for him alone. His performance is brilliant.
Really?
Fucking brilliant. Like, his two characters and the way he flips between them is superb. It's really, really good. Like, of all the things in this movie, that is an absolute, whenever he's on screen, apart from when he says one or two lines, great. So anyway, they basically need to get to the other end of the station, which is where the ship is, to get off the station. Station is in a decaying orbit and all that stuff.
Yeah. So you've got your timing.
You got your time bomb and all of that. Cast. Very unlikable people, all of them. apart from David Johnson, and I would say Katie Spaney as Rain. I didn't like her at first. By the end, she'd grown on me enough.
Okay, well that's something.
Andy, I loved. I wanted to watch Andy all the whole time. The rest of the cast can just fuck off and die. Don't care. but it is a slasher movie effectively, so whatever.
Yeah.
I guess. But yes, they're not particularly likable. They're not particularly fleshed out. You don't have that. They don't spend anywhere near enough time establishing these characters or giving us enough. Like I've always said, that dining scene in Alien.
When they've just woken up.
When they've just woken up.
Mm.
The arguments between Ripley and the engineers.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got... I love the
There's
whole
just
engineer
enough.
Crew divide. It's brilliant.
There's just enough. You know, like them fucking... When they crash and oh fucking hell! Why am I the captain? Why am I blanking on his bloody name? Dallas. When they're like, they tell Dallas the state of the ship, and he's like, oh, that's all horseshit. We can take off all that crap. Don't worry about it. You know, the things like that. You know enough about those characters. By the time we're on the planet, we know everything we need to know about these characters. They're established. We know what they're like.
Yeah.
We know the kind of people they are, and now we're going to see how they react to this situation. With this, it was like that. You don't really get a feel for any of them, and the feel you get, you're just like, oh, they're just kind of dicks, to be honest. One of them in particular is clearly meant to just be there to be an asshole. You know, he's that character in every slasher movie you've ever seen.
Is that the guy from Shadow and Bone? Archie Renault, is it? Tyler?
It might. I don't know. It's the guy. It's this. No, not him.
Oh, okay.
It's the guy with the fucking bandana. The something in the water guy.
Oh, okay.
It's him. He's just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. I'm pretty sure it's him anyway. But yeah, anyway. So very unlikable cast, or characters, I should say, not cast. I'm sure the cast are fine. Very unlikable characters, but Andy and Rain were enough to keep me going. Some scenes are fucking wonderful. Like the early parts of the movie are really good. And one scene in particular, I mean, there was a scene where they established that the facehuggers are attracted by heat and by noise. And as soon as they established this, I thought to myself, this is the man who directed Don't Breathe. I have a feeling these scenes are going to be very good because he's good at that, right? And it works really well. Andy, they have to go through this room, and there's a billion not a billion. There's like 10 facehuggers in there, right? And Andy changes the temperature of the room to be body temperature. So the whole room is body temperature, and he's basically like, well, they shouldn't see you because your temperature is the same as everything else in the room. Right. But you can't make any fucking noise, and you can't sweat, and you can't get stressed because if your temperature changes, you're screwed. Really tense scene. Really good. And they're, you know, the facehuggers are kind of there like scorpions, and they're kind of like they twitch every now and again when they kind of maybe hear something. Really creepy. Really good scene. Scenes like that are superb. It seems like the alien birth. Superb, because you know we've all seen the chest burster run away and then it's full grown. Well, you see the full grown kind of emerge from its chrysalis. Great scene.
Okay.
Loads of practical effects that are superb.
Yeah, that's you know,
really
that's
good. Really good stuff. This movie feels like a best of. Really, is what it is. It's kind of like that 2017 Halloween, 16 Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's a best of the other Halloween kills. It's kind of that in alien form. And unfortunately, for some fucking reason, they decided to also do Alien Resurrection and Prometheus and all of those movies as a best of. So those bits are terrible. And I'm like, why did you do any of those things? I don't know. There's an ending to this movie that I fucking hated. And I would say there are two endings to this movie, as with all bloody alien movies. Again, that's a trope they can't get away from, is it? They have to have a apart from Alien 3. Alien 3 just ends. No, it doesn't. No, Alien 3 has two ends. Same bloody thing. You think it's over, but it's not over. That's an alien trope that they have to do.
Yeah.
The first ending of this movie If they went with that, I would have said, I don't know whether to spoil it or not. First ending of this movie, I think if they'd ended it there, the film would have been 40% better for me. Like, genuinely, I would have been like, okay, that's way more good than bad at that point. But fuck me, that second ending, I did not like that second ending at all. It's Alien Resurrection, if you haven't seen Alien Resurrection. It's Alien Resurrection, but mixed with Prometheus.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I think I have heard what the thing is, so...
Oh, fuck it. If you don't want this bit, the first ending spoiled, then skip ahead for, like a couple of minutes. Because you don't give a fuck. You're never going to watch this movie.
No, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not.
So
honestly, I haven't heard anything that's made me want to watch it at all.
No, okay, that's fair enough. Rook they have created the black goo from Prometheus.
Yeah.
And pregnant lady gets fucked up by an alien, and so she's gonna die, and she needs to get to the spaceship, and Rook. They're like, you inject the black goo is what Rook's suggestion is to save your baby and to save you. She does that. She does that out of desperation. And the first ending of the movie is they're putting her in a cryopod. And I thought to myself, if they put her in the cryopod and the movie ends and they're off to the planet, but she's got the black goo and we don't know what's going to happen, that's good ending. That's a good ending. You've set yourself up. There's a looming threat. They've escaped the immediate situation. For me, that would have been a great ending. Instead, we had to see what happens immediately, and it continues on.
Yeah.
I would have ended it there, and I think it would have been a better movie for it. There are some horrible fucking references in this movie. Reused lines of dialogue.
I heard that, and it's like, why would
my
you
God.
do that? It doesn't make sense.
The only ones I will give a pass to are Rook's ones. They're like, I don't fancy your chances, I can't be with you.
Yeah.
Those I'm like, okay, it's the same model android. So it feels awkward, but I'm like, okay.
It potentially has the same brain sort of pattern.
Yeah, right.
So, fine.
But Andy saying, like, I prefer the term artificial person myself, or Andy saying, get away from her, you bitch, which is the worst line of the whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
And even David Johnson looks like he didn't want to fucking say it. Like he fucking knew when he was saying it, this is dog shit. Lines like that are just terrible.
I don't even know why you would even...
I don't know. Why would you?
What makes it worse is this is the first use of that line now.
Yeah, yes, yeah, canonically, yeah. Yeah, canonically, Ripley ripped off this movie. She ripped off Andy.
That's just fucking annoying.
Yeah, and it's so unnecessary and so awkward. It amazes me. It doesn't amaze me that they wrote it in. It feels like a first draft.
Yeah.
That stuff does. But also, I just feel like, surely at the test screening, that would have gone. And just gone after that. Like, cutting room floor immediately after the first test screening.
I don't even know why you would make that decision as a director.
Like, I have no idea. It cheapens your whole film. It's bizarre to me. It sounds like a small thing, but there's a lot of references in this movie. Some of them are okay. Some of them are really not. Like, there's a bit early on with Rook when, you don't see his face immediately, and it was like, if you left it here, it would probably be okay.
Yeah.
Because my friend was like, I could see it was him. And I was like, I could see it was him too, but I was hoping I was wrong. Because it was like he hadn't spoken yet, and he was just kind of there, and I was like, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like. There's a lot of really cool scenes, like zero gravity with acid floating around is a terrifying concept.
That's cool.
Things like that. There's some really good bits in it. Andy is superb. The score is great. I really like the score. I think they did a really good job with that. The direction's brilliant for a lot of it. It looks like Alien. They get the retro future nailed. It's not Prometheus. There's no bloody touchscreens or any of that nonsense. It's all proper. Fits in. Looks good. Looks really good in some cases.
Okay.
But good God. So for me, I came away thinking this was probably more good than bad. Like,
Right.
I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was, like, absolutely terrible. But it's not amazing. It's kind of like a 6, you know? Like a kind of 5.5, 6 out of 10 for me. Like, it's more good than bad. It's probably up there with, like, Alien 3-ish.
Okay, I was going to say, where would you put it on in terms of the movies?
I would have to watch it again, I think, to know how I really feel, and I'm probably never going to watch it again.
Right.
But I'd say it's either next to or just behind Alien 3. But bearing in mind that everything after Alien 3 is dog shit.
Yeah.
It's such a low bar after that. You go into Resurrection, then Prometheus and Covenant, and that's assuming you're ignoring Alien versus Predator, which is even worse.
There's a lot I like about Resurrection, but I mean, I love the crew with Betty.
But everyone enjoys Firefly.
Exactly, yeah. Everything else in that movie is, and I actually like Sigourney Weaver's sort of different portrayal of a different Ripley.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Ripley. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
that's the weirdest thing about that movie. They all treat her like she's Ripley. It's like she's not Ripley though. Yeah, she's not at all Ripley.
Yeah. She's not, and it's really I like that.
She did do a good performance, kind of separating the two. I'll give you that.
Yeah, but and we've talked about 3 quite a bit, but
yeah.
I love 3 as a movie if you take out Ripley.
And the assembly cut of 3 is good. I like the assembly cut. But yeah, it's not the terrible mess that I thought it was going to be.
Okay, that's something.
It was better than I feared.
Yeah.
But nowhere near as good as I'd hoped. That's where I am.
Okay.
Didn't annoy me. I came out like, well, bits of it did. But I came out like, no, I think it was more good than bad. I would put it somewhere after Alien 3. I'd certainly watch it instead of Resurrection or Prometheus or any of those, I guess. Even then, actually, maybe I would watch Resurrection out of nostalgia just to see. I don't know. But no, I would put it somewhere either next to or around Alien 3. I think Alien 3 assembly cut is better, but Alien 3 theatrical, this might be better than that.
Okay.
But it's not, I've seen a lot of reviews since watching it, and I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are saying. I also don't think it's as good as a lot of people are saying. So I'm kind of like it's
definitely sort of divided people.
It seems to have, doesn't it? It's
to have its lovers and its haters. So it's
it's a solid C from me.
It's certainly made its money.
Yeah, well, there's going to be a billion sequels now. So
yeah, it's really done well. I'm not convinced. I'm not going to bother.
And that's fair enough.
I just don't want.
It doesn't.
I don't want another movie between Alien and Aliens. I just don't need it.
No, I agree. I agree, and I completely understand. I completely understand. I feel like, I'm already this way with Star Wars. I won't watch any more Star Wars. I don't care. I actually rewatched. Did I tell you I've been rewatching Star Wars? The
originals.
The originals. I've been watching the Project movies, the Project cuts.
Oh yeah.
They're basically like what you saw in the cinema when they came out. It's those cuts. And I've realized I don't hate Star Wars. I just hate everything after the original trilogy, including the prequels, because I hated them too. So I'm like, no, this is fine. I can exist with these 3 movies and ignore everything else, and I'm fine with that. So I get where you're coming from with this too. It is completely unnecessary. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I liked it less than Prey. I thought Prey was a better reboot of a trashed franchise than this. So, there's that.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I don't think there's anything in this movie. I think some people will love it. Some people will hate it. Some people will feel like me. I feel like you would probably hate it or dislike it. There's nothing there that's going to convince you, I don't think.
Yeah.
I am.
The only thing I'm intrigued by is what you, especially after what you've said and what I've heard other people say, is that Andy's really good.
Oh, he's really good. Like, put him in a better movie. It's fantastic. His
I'd be
performance
tempted
is great.
by his performance alone, maybe, but not enough.
Or find YouTube clips. I don't know.
Yeah,
Eventually. That's what I do with movies I can't stand, or there's bits of movies I'm like, I'll just look it up. Like I did that the other day with Deadpool Wolverine.
Yep.
I just typed in Deadpool Wolverine Blade, and I was like, oh, I've seen that now. Good. Now we don't have to bother.
Honestly, I think I'm feeling the same with that as well. I'm not sure.
I'm not gonna watch it, so I was like, I'll just YouTube the bit I want to see. I'm like, okay, Blade came back, vaguely interested. Type that in. There we go. Seen it now.
Yeah.
Bewilderingly, they didn't give him a sword.
Actually, I'm not going out of my way.
Oh. But anyway, that's Alien Romulus from my perspective. I didn't hate it. Didn't think it was amazing either, though. So I'm like a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
But when I say that, oh god, this is why.
I mean, would you recommend it to?
Yeah, I'd recommend it to Aliens fans. Certainly, if you sat through fucking Prometheus and didn't hate it, then definitely watch it. If you're a bitter old fuck like me, I would watch it. I think there's enough good that it's worth watching. There's just some very frustrating bits in there that you need to be ready for. Really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine. Like I said, I probably will never watch it again, but it was okay. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. Put that on your poster.
Not as bad as it could have been. Yeah. That's the tagline.
That's the tagline. 6 out of 10. Not as bad as it could have been. So what else have you watched?
So should we do a spoilerific Maxine?
Go
discussion?
for it, because I liked this movie, but I am not as huge a fan of the franchise as you are, of X and of Pearl.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was way more chance that you would be bitterly disappointed by this than I would have been. So I'm curious of your take, first of all.
So, again, I adored Pearl. I think Pearl was.
Oh God, your review! If people want to listen to your review, it's on here.
Somewhere. I think it was my movie of the year, wasn't it?
It was your movie of the year, and you.
Pearl and X, I thought was great. This was a fucking brilliant movie.
Mm.
So, this one, I love.
Okay.
With a number of caveats.
Yeah, I thought there would be caveats. I wasn't sure whether the caveats would overshadow your love of the film.
Yeah, it's certainly the weakest of the three.
I agree.
I mean, again, if you needed any fucking proof, Mia Goth is stunning,
and Ty West is a superb director.
And his visuals
in this, I think honestly, I think the cast and the visuals elevate an average movie to be something special.
That's why I think I can't dislike the movie, because
I think
everyone is doing their best in this movie.
I agree,
and fuck's sake, Kevin Bacon.
Oh, superb.
The detective.
Him. Yeah, he was great. When he turned up, I was like, "Oh wow, he's brilliant in this."
He's like the detective he played in the last Beverly Hills Cop movie, Turned Up to 11.
Yeah, he's such a sleaze. He's just an asshole.
And I do love the references as well. I love the fact that he's dressed and he even gets the plaster on his nose, and he ends up basically looking like what's his name from Chinatown.
Yes, he does. He does look like Jack Nicholson from Chinatown. Yeah,
Chinatown character is like Jesus.
And of course, Jack Nicholson's character is a bit of a dick in that, so it kind of fits.
He's a dick, but he's not
as bad as Kevin Bacon in this, but
it's just an awful human being. So with the others, they all have their sort of references. So the first one is basically it's very heavily influenced by Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah.
Pearl is very. I mean, it seems quite weird when you say it, but it's very influenced by Wizard of Oz.
No, I can see that.
It's got very sort of the colors, the sort of the way she acts. It's almost like Dorothy at times, So you have these weird, This one, Maxine, has about 10 influences.
Yes.
It's got the Psycho reference. It's got the Giallo reference. Yeah. It's got,
some of the lighting's very Giallo.
Sorry?
Some of the lighting in scenes is very Giallo.
And I think overall that's what they should have stuck with.
Yeah, I agree. That I would have stuck with that. They're making the Puritan 2, it totally matches. Like, I would have stuck with that.
Yeah, I mean, even there are whole shots with just,
bathed in red.
The killer.
Yeah.
And his gloves. And that's just pure Giallo.
Yeah.
It's, and then it sort of goes into sort of, obviously they wanted, it's set in the 80s, and they do a very good job of that.
I was going to say, I am normally the first to fucking shit on movies set in the 80s, because they do this idyllic bullshit 80s that never really existed, except for in the minds of Hollywood. This movie, I was like, oh no, this is proper 80s. This is grimy as shit.
Yeah, and that's what I like is, it's not the sort of, hey, here's a Rubik's Cube. Hey, here's a
sold out screening of Day of the Dead or something, like fucking Stranger Things that did that. It really aggrieved me. It's not like, hey, it's like Back to the Future.
But see, having said that, they do go through the set of Back to the Future. They do.
No, they do, but it all feels much more like a film set in the genuine 80s rather than a film set in the made up mythological Hollywood memory of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It felt real.
Yeah. But there are just so many sort of references and so many sort of things that just don't quite gel. They don't. I agree. Sort of, and I think they set up some quite nice sort of, supporting characters, like her friend.
I loved her friend, yeah.
I'd like to have him to be a little more rounded. I'd like to have seen more of him before they, off him. But he was quite cool. I loved that the detective was awful and great. I thought they did a pretty good job of setting up the first two friends that,
I think you see enough of them. Before.
No, but they set them up enough to know.
No, I thought we did see enough of them. I thought it was fine.
They you knew what was going to happen to them.
Of course.
And then you've got the whole sort of satanic panic thing, and you've got a real serial killer reference. You have the real Night Stalker.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So there's a lot going on in this movie, and I think the main problem with that whole thing is
they should have picked one.
I think it's one, they should have just picked one. I think they should have just gone with the Giallo.
A Giallo would have been perfect. But that's when this film is at its best, is the Giallo stuff.
Yeah, the main problem with this movie is that if you haven't seen the other two, fine. I mean, why would you watch this movie if you hadn't?
Yeah, it feels like if you're 3 deep into a series. Come on.
But I'm presuming you've seen the other two, you know straight away who it is.
There was very little mystery.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we're spoiling it, so it's her dad. You knew it was going to be her dad from the very beginning.
We said this was going to be spoilerific.
Yeah, we said
I did a non-spoiler one 2 weeks ago or whenever.
Yeah, so we know from the beginning it's obviously going to turn out to be her dad. So it's not a surprise, really.
No. And to be honest, I think even if you hadn't, maybe not. Maybe if you hadn't watched the others, you wouldn't see it. But they do hint pretty heavily early on that her dad's going to be heavily involved in this somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
There's a couple of lines where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was barely horror, is how I felt about it.
It's not horror. You've got some gory kills.
It's like it wants to be a slasher movie, but there's nowhere near enough kills or and that sounds silly to say, or childish or puerile, but slasher movies are a certain way, and this movie really doesn't have that. I think it's a great commentary on Hollywood. Yeah. In places. I love, as is reality in often cases, most of the people in Hollywood, including the cop at the end, is like, I just wanted to be an actor. It's like, there you go. I really loved the director of the film, Elizabeth
Becky. Yes, she's great.
She's super.
I'm making art.
Yeah, and she's like, fuck, like this, like I made The Puritan, it was never meant to be a fucking hit. Now it's a hit. Like, I'm like this megastar, but Hollywood fucking hate me. They don't want me to succeed, so I'm taking such a risk by casting you. Do not fuck this up for me. Like, do not screw this up.
I mean,
thought she was great.
I love how how blasé she is about about Maxine's situation as well. She literally says, "Whatever the fuck this is,
just
go fucking sort it out and come back."
Yeah. Because you just imagine that they've all got these bloody dirty secrets, all these Hollywood actors, and they just don't bring it onto the set.
And she literally says, "Whatever this is, squash it."
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, fine, sure.
And her agent, she like tells him the whole thing, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah. I love that. It was so good. And I love what they did to Bacon's character. It was like,
oh, it's great.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay, full on, fuck you, we're going to crush you to death.
Oh, it was fantastic.
So, yeah, it was like, literally, she squished it.
Yeah.
That was her problem.
She squashed the problem. She told her to squash the problem, so she did.
Yeah. And that's the thing. There are so many things to like in this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed my time with it.
One of my favourite little things is when she sets up that thing. You know, she talks to her boss, her agent.
Her agent, yeah.
She talks to I think he must be the bodyguard of the production.
I guess.
She talks to him, and it's when he comes out. So Bacon comes out onto the sort of the loading platform of that place, and he just hits him with the bat, and he goes down.
Yeah. The
way he goes down was like, whoa, fuck, that was fucking awesome and brutal.
Yeah, you might have killed him already.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's gonna get up from that because he goes fucking down. That was beautiful. There's lovely little sort of moments. I mean, even though it seems a bit much. When they're on the set of the Bates Motel,
yeah,
and she looks up in the window and Pearl's in the window. It's like that was really. I mean, it's like it seems obvious and a little, you know.
It's a nice touch. I thought it was
really
nice.
Nice, yeah. I liked it. I thought it was really cool, and I loved the sort of, you know, the chase scene of Bacon chasing her through the sets and. You know, her going into one place and coming out in the Back to the Future set, and that all felt very sort of Jallo and sort of right, and then it sort of the end felt a little like, okay, how are they going to end this? Is it going to be all in her head? Is it just going to be a sort of her dream? You know, or are they going and she's going to get gunned down? Or not, and I'm kind of glad they didn't kill her because I had this like because when she's got the gun on her dad and the helicopter,
you just thought she was going to get gunned down, yeah.
Yeah, you think I would have not, I would have been, you know, slightly disappointed in that ending, but I would have understood that ending and it would have made sense.
Yeah.
But then they sort of. It's like, oh, here's the dream, but then no, it's actually a reality. It's like, oh, okay, that's a bit weird. That felt a little odd.
Well, I'm not quite sure how it works either, if I'm honest. I was left a little confused.
It did feel a little.
Well, because it felt, I don't know, like maybe I did wonder because I couldn't really talk to you about it at the time because I would have spoiled the fucking ending of the movie.
Yeah,
but now I can. So, she has a gun to his head.
Yes.
The police are circling above with a spotlight on her. They're telling her to put down the gun.
Yeah.
She dreams this fantasy.
Yeah.
Then comes back to reality and blows his fucking head off.
Yeah.
In front of the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's fine.
And then it's
and then no one takes her to task. No one puts her in jail. Is that a fantasy at the end? Is she actually in jail? That might make some sense. But
I'm not sure.
The impression the movie gave is that she just got away with it, and I was like, okay. I'm sure there would have been some ramifications to you actually murdering someone, regardless of what they've done beforehand.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess we'll have to wait for the inevitable sequel.
I presume what's her name? Damn, what was her bloody name? the female cop. I presume she survived because she had the.
She didn't look very well, but I thought she might have survived. With she loses an eye.
I was going to say she's certainly Michelle Monaghan, her character.
Yes.
I thought
who again I really liked as a character.
Yeah, she was great. She was almost the only sort of normal person.
Yes, she kind of was. She was
the only one that didn't appear to want to be an actor before or something, you know. And that was quite funny. I guess if she lives, she can explain what happened. And
it still doesn't explain that she still cold-bloodedly murdered that guy in front of the cops. Regardless of the context leading up to that point, he was helpless, and she blew his head off with a shotgun. You could be like, okay, we'll give you extenuating circumstances, but you'd still be like, there would still be repercussions. Surely,
she was tied to a tree, and she was about to get branded and.
She was then. But at the point that she had him caught, all she had to do was wait for the police to arrest him, not blow his head off. I know it was the 80s, but even the 80s had limits. You know, they still lied at the end of Roadhouse. They just go, we killed them all.
Well, I mean, she's got a good.
I know.
She's got a good manager, so maybe
she does. Yeah, she has a good agent.
Yeah, so maybe.
Maybe it's a commentary on the corruption of Hollywood and that they get away with, in some cases, literal murder or manslaughter. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess there is going to be a sequel, right? So I guess we'll
I'm going to be slightly cynical, and I'm going to say it feels like they
were going to kill her off.
The initial ending, where I think she was probably going to die.
Yeah. And then they were like, it's worth too much.
And then I think they thought, hey, we probably could carry on this.
I have a feeling you're right. That was kind of my thinking as well, because it does feel like it's leading to a point where she got gunned down by the cops.
Yeah. And
I think, honestly, it would have been a better ending. Her getting away with it, and then it all being a fantasy and going back to that moment, and she blows his head off and then gets killed.
Yeah.
That would have been a better ending. But then you wouldn't have got any more.
It still would have got her goal.
Yeah, she still would have succeeded.
Because they even say at the very beginning of the movie, the only reason everybody remembers, and I'm not even going to remember her fucking name, the Black Dahlia, the only reason everybody remembers her is because she got murdered.
Yep.
She was probably never going to be a star.
No, she
became a star
famous
by being murdered.
Yes.
And that would have worked for Maxine. She would have been that person who was nearly murdered by a cult and murdered her own father.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like, that's pure gold story there. So she would have got what she wanted.
Yeah, in death, she would have got what she wanted.
Yeah. I can't say I dislike the ending, though. I'm kind of glad she is alive, because I love the character.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't think this did terribly well, so I don't know whether they're going to get a...
They are talking about a sequel, but I don't know if anything's been agreed yet.
That's it. I think it's all talk at the moment. I don't think anything's been put down. But they're not... I don't think they're terribly expensive movies, so...
No.
I think there's a chance. And I certainly would watch another one just...
Oh, me too.
Be a goth, really.
They've not made a terrible one yet.
See where they go. Would they bump it up to the 90s and, have, I don't know, a Scream referenced thing, or I Know What You Did Last Summer type thing, or how would they move? I'd be interested enough to see what Ty West does further, but I'd hope it would be a little more not coherent, cohesive.
Yeah.
Than this, and it sounds like I'm ragging on it, but I did love this movie, and I think it's a fine ending to what's gone before. It's just not as good as it could have been, and you're right. It's not horror. It's basically a thriller. It's
in places it goes into there's one scene of shocking violence
with her friend is pretty cool.
Well, I was thinking with the penis, but yeah.
Oh, the penis one. Yes, I forgot.
Which is
about
a great scene, but it's kind of like it feels like it's a great scene, and if the rest of the movie was like that, it would have been like, okay, that's fine. But it felt out of place in this movie because there's so little of it, apart from that one scene. And I guess the shotgun blast at the end. But
I mean that scene was really good, but you could. I mean, it's kind of you. The moment you saw her pick up the gun in her apartment, you knew she was going to.
Yeah. There was no peril there.
No,
like you knew she was going to be fine. Like
it was kind of cool though. It was all right. There were a lot of really cool sort of like moments. I mean, there was really amazingly uncomfortable scene when she's in the dance booth.
Yeah,
and because we know, because some people probably might not know who was watching it, but we're watching it and we know that's her dad watching her dance, and it's like that's
gross. Really, yeah.
It's really horrible. And I mean, I would recommend it to anybody who just loves my goth and Ty West. Actually, I mean, I think if you go in thinking it's going to be another horror movie, and I think that's the problem with that they've had with all three of these movies, is that they've been sold as horror movies, and yes, they are horror movies. Well, the first two they're like horror movies, but they're not standard horror movies. The first one isn't a straight up slasher.
Yeah.
The second one isn't a. Well, I guess you could say there's a sort of slasher as well, but it's not a straight up slasher. It's they're all they all have their little things that are deeper and a little make them more interesting movies.
Yeah.
And this does, but it's shifts more to the thriller than the horror. So
yes,
I think it would certainly disappoint some people.
That was my biggest fear for you.
Yeah,
was that you would have been like, not enough horror in my horror movie. This is it does feel like it's almost like Rob Zombie with House of a Thousand Corpses into the Devil's Rejects, whereas like this is a different film now. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
and I guess in that case most people agree that was an improvement. But here I was like, oh,
yeah, so it keeps you going because of one, the characters, and two, the setting is so well done.
Yeah.
That I think it puts it above others that have tried similar things.
Yeah.
It just suffers from having too many reference points, calling for your attention, really, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm not disappointed. I love the movie.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of niggles that just put it not quite on the same level as the first two.
Yeah.
For me. But I would I recommend it to anybody who, certainly if you've seen the other.
I still think it's a great movie overall.
Yeah, it is. It's like I said, it's the the performances and the way it looks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought it was an average movie.
Yeah.
No real surprises. It's just very well directed and very well acted, and that elevates it to being a really fun movie.
Great soundtrack as well.
Yes.
I would definitely recommend it if you want to see a nice thriller. And that's what it is.
Most importantly, a great soundtrack that's used well.
Yeah.
Not a great soundtrack just shoved into the movie arbitrarily. Like all the songs work in the scenes.
Yep. Yeah, they've been chosen specifically for that part.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I did love it, just not as much as the other two.
Yeah.
I mean, Pearl was always going to be a hard one to try and beat anyway, because I think that movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I had no doubt that it was not going to live up to that, but yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it anyway.
Yeah.
So what else have you watched, Matt?
So I have also seen Longlegs.
Longlegs. This is a film I really do want to see. I've again heard mixed things. But
so
yeah,
this is Osgood Perkins, son of Anthony Perkins.
Yeah.
I think it's his second or third movie. I can't quite remember which one it was. Um, so we are introduced to Agent Lee Harker, played by Mika Monroe, who is, I think it's, well, it starts off with her as a little girl um, going into her garden after seeing a car pull up, and then being confronted by Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage. And then I think that's the 70s, and then we leap to the 90s, where she is a FBI agent and she's working on this case, and it becomes very clear that she is a little bit psychic.
Right.
Because they go to this, they're canvassing for, information about a murderer, and they sort of pull up to this thing, and she just says to her partner, "It's that house there." And he's like, "What?" It's like, "It's that one, that house there." So they go to the house. He gets offed, but she arrests this killer. She's then put on this other case, which is the Longlegs case, which is over a number of years, seemingly happy families. The father has gone nuts for some reason and killed his family and then killed himself.
Mm.
And these notes are left, sort of, oh God, what's the bloody serial killer with the notes? Oh Christ, my brain. Not Vertigo, for fuck's sake, it's the Zodiac, Jesus.
My God.
So in a very
you somehow
style,
passed that on to me then through the internet.
Yeah, stutter brain is catching.
It was catching.
So those sort of notes, cipher notes, are left at the scene by signed Longlegs. So there's no evidence that anybody else has been involved. There's no evidence that he was ever in the room. There's no prints, each one, it seems like the dad is just gone nuts, killed his family, killed himself. And they all seem to be connected to a child's birthday, like the 14th of the month. So they either happen just before, just after, or on the 14th. And you see that Agent Harker, she's given this like weird test of flashing lights and images, and she's like, "What's the number? And what's this? What does this mean? And what's this?" And she sort of fires off these things, and Blair Underwood, playing her boss, says something along the lines of, "Hey, how did you get some of those numbers right?" And she's like, "Well, I got half of them wrong, but He's like, "Well, I suppose it's good being half psychic then, isn't it?" So she's given these sort of pile of notes, and she phones her mother, and at some point, and her mother, played by Alicia Witt, seems very odd. You don't see her, you just hear her at first, and she seems a little sort of distant. She says that she used to be a nurse, and you can talk to me about these horrible murders, but she seems very religious, and she says, "Oh, you are saying your prayers, aren't you? You must say your prayers." And she says, "Sure, whatever," but you clearly know she's fucking not. And then you get her house is sort of invaded. She's in her home. She hears a noise. She goes outside. She looks around, and then she sees someone in her house. She goes into her house, and then no one's in there, but there is a letter from Longlegs left for her.
Right.
And she just proceeds to decode it. So then she goes back to her job, sort of thing, and she decodes all of the other. There's a new murder. She goes to the sort of house, and her colleagues are a little bit suspicious of her because she clearly knows shit that she shouldn't. And it then becomes a sort of, trying to track down this Longlegs character, while clearly, she has a history with Longlegs, and there's something weird going on with her mother, and so you've got all this sort of going on. It's been so this movie sort of caught my attention because people were saying, "Oh, it's Silence of the Lambs. It's like it's the new Silence of the Lambs sort of thing, or it's the new Zodiac, or it's the new Seven, or it's the new." It's like, okay, you've got my interest. So I went, I saw it, and it's like that. Those comparisons are not wrong, but they kind of not right for what this movie is.
Right.
So the Zodiac angle is literally just because it's got the notes in it. It's the only reason that it's really got.
Sure.
And it's obviously a serial killer, but the Silence of the Lambs thing is basically because she's an FBI agent. Now, what this movie has that those other ones do not have is this is clearly a real supernatural thing. It's not just a sort of Hannibal Lecter's a serial killer, he eats people.
Now,
or
much of the criticism that I've seen of this film centers around the shocking revelation that it's supernatural.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a problem in the film, or do you think it's just marketed piss poorly?
I have absolutely no problem with it in the movie.
Yeah, cool. So in the context of the film, it's fine.
That's what the movie is.
Yeah, that's fine. That's kind of the impression I was getting.
It's up quite early that she's got psychic powers.
Yeah, it's like that time when Drive came out. And loads of people hated it because it was marketed as Fast and Furious and wasn't Fast and Furious. It's like, well, it's still a great movie, just not what you wanted. Fine, I get it, but that's not the fault of the film. That's the fault of the marketing department. And the marketing on this movie, it's been like totally Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's not Silence of the Lambs because it's not. It's not a grounded movie. There's
no intention of being either, from the sound of it.
Yeah, slightly spoilering. It's clearly a fucking satanic thing. Mm-hmm. Theoretically it could just be in her head, but she sees the fucking devil. There is clearly a goat-headed vision that keeps popping up from the time.
Yeah.
And again, yes, it could be in her mind. But we've already established that she gets senses for things. She sees stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in thinking, oh, this is going to be Silence of the Lambs, it's going to be it's like, no, because there are weird shit in this movie. There is. It feels a little like anticlimactic because they set up the ciphers and stuff.
Yeah.
But she already knows how to do it. So she's like, very quickly, so it kind of becomes a sort of a moot thing. It's like almost like they set this thing up, but she deals with it so quickly that it's not a thing, really. It's just so happens how he communicates with people. It just becomes when it becomes how much do I spoil here? I won't spoil it here, but when they find something at one of the houses, and then it sort of becomes clear what instrument he's using, let's say, through what he is using to do, like, Satan's bidding, if you will.
Yeah.
Once you get to that, if you're not on board with it, then you might as well just leave the movie and walk away.
Yeah.
Because by that point it's full on, hell Satan stuff, and he literally does say that at one point. Nick Cage is utterly creepy. He's got these. he's got a long sort of white wig on, and he wears these really weird sort of 70s clothes, sort of these weird beige and white clothes, and he's got full on prosthetics that sort of weird sort of puffy prosthetic that make him look. You can kind of see it. I mean, as soon as he opens his mouth, you know it's Cage, but you can kind of see him in there, and he's got these weird mannerisms, and he's got this weird sort of like high voice that he uses, and I think some people might be put off by it. A lot of people, I think, will really like it because it is kind of, you know, like, as we say, it's a big performance from Cage. You know, it's what he does. He is actually not in it a lot. It's very like Arcadian in that,
sure,
you know, which I think works better for this movie because of who he is. You don't need to see him all the time.
Sure.
So he's not in it as much as I think some people would like. But what he does with what he has is fucking cool. I really appreciated what he does and how what happens with his character. It's not the best of this sort of type of movie. The directing's great. There are some really nice, certainly some nice visuals. Some of the sort of the murder shots are quite good. Sort of some really nice sort of chunky cuts and things.
Yeah.
The main character she's, you know, they're going for that sort of, oh, I'm a bit autistic and I don't gel well socially, which it's kind of annoying in this movie. It's like, I don't think they need to do that with her. I think it would have been, because of what happened, you know, you kind of see it coming, but because of what happens with her character, I think it would have benefited more if she would have been a slightly more likable, normal character.
Yeah. Because
they've already sort of set her up as weird and sort of away from people. It doesn't really, nothing really surprises you. You know, if they'd have made her a slightly more normal character, you know, it would have been more shocking to find out that, you know,
yes,
weird events are there. It sort of doesn't quite work for that character. I mean, it's not that it's a bad performance or anything. It's just, I think it doesn't work with the overall story well enough.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sure, she's fine, okay. You know, if she'd have just been someone who turned up, got this job, and sort of was it? Oh, sure, she's psychic and she gets feelings, but she was a bit more normal. I think it would have worked better. I would recommend it. I think it's a really enjoyable, you know, Satan cult movie. And that's the problem with the marketing, is that it's focused. It's tried to steer it towards what it isn't. In that, you know, sure, you've got a female FBI agent that's trying to hunt down a serial killer, but the elements are so different. You know, this isn't just a psycho. This is a psycho who works for Satan.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, it's that much different that it will disappoint people if you go. Well, I mean, I went in thinking that, so I'm not saying I was disappointed because I liked what they did. It's you know, it's for what it is. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But if you think of it as Seven, or I mean, certainly not bloody Seven, then you're going to be disappointed. But you know, all the performances from Blair Underwood is good as the boss. Alicia Witt's nicely creepy as the mum, and Kiernan Shipka, who's got a very small part as one of the survivors of Longlegs, who's been in institute for years. She gets a visit from someone, and she seems normal again. She's she's talking again, and so they go and see her, and she's got it's a very small part, but it's very cool. It's, really nice little sort of almost cameo, I guess, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a nice movie. It's pretty well done. Looks good, and I would recommend it, but with the caveat that just don't go in expecting Silence of the Lambs, because
know what you're getting yourself in for.
And I think the problem is the sort of the three main movies it's been pointed towards are all wonderful movies of their thing,
of their genre. Yes.
Yeah. Zodiac is a fucking brilliant, slice of 70s to 80s sort of, detective stuff. And it's got, Silence of the Lambs is a great horror thriller. Seven is just wonderful. That's the real fuck with your head shit. This is kind of none of those, and it kind of damages it to try and put it with those, So yeah, I would definitely go see it. Just don't go expecting any of those movies. It's nowhere near as good as those movies.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely going to check this out anyway. It was 100% on my list, so
I think you'll like it a lot.
Cool. So I think you've got one more.
I do. What was the movie?
It was
yes.
Violent Nature.
In a Violent Nature. I was like, what did I see? So In a Violent Nature.
Yeah.
So this is written and directed by Chris Nash.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much just, I would say, stars Ray Barnett. So this is a straight up slasher, actually. Well, more I say straight up slasher. This is more of a straight up slasher, but it has the sort of the overall thing of you're following the killer.
Yes.
So basically, it's got I really love the beginning of this. It's got really nice. So it opens with just a shot of this wrecked fire tower, which is like been knocked down and it's on its side, and there's a locket hanging off this pole, and opens. You just see this, and you can hear voices. You can't see the people. You just hear voices, and it's clearly a bunch of sort of backpackery, holiday makery type people. And they're like, oh, look at this. Why would someone leave a locket? And he's like, oh, well, I don't know. Just leave it alone. No. So, oh, come on, let's go. Then, of course, you see hands taking the locket. You then see this pole that the locket was on being forced out of the ground, and you see the resurrection of this hulking Johnny character. So this appears to be the only thing that was keeping Johnny trapped in the ground, sort of thing.
Sure.
So you then basically proceed to the camera then, just behind Johnny. You're literally watching him walk through the woods to what turns out to be was once his house.
Yeah.
He kills a dude there. He goes and he mistakes this really bad medallion for the locket. You get a brief flash of, I think it's his dad, saying, "Oh, this is your mum's locket. Remember to look after it," sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you quickly establishes it's his mum's locket. So then you get the sort of around the campfire, the young people telling stories, and they tell the story of Johnny, who was this. This is the thing that it did make me laugh out loud. Johnny was a retarded kid who liked to play with toys, but he was.
I shouldn't have laughed at that. Sorry, but
that's it, though, isn't it? That's exactly it. It made me.
I'm a horrible person. Sorry.
Yeah, But it's like, oh, he was tricked into going up into the fire tower.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's basically Friday the 13th. I mean,
exactly.
Even that, like, oh, this was the only thing keeping him down reminds me of, what is it? It's the opening to Jason Takes Manhattan, isn't it? Where he's been, like, at the end of the last one, he was, like, chained to the bottom of the lake and then,
Yes.
shenanigans and he's free.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. So from there, then on, he's just looking for his locket, and he's murdering people as he goes.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's it, really. That's the story.
That's your plot.
It's your slasher movie. That's what it is.
There's a gimmick.
But the gimmick is you're following him. So here's where the problems start. Almost every scene is 5 or 10 minutes too long.
Oh no!
Now this is only an hour and a half movie.
Wow, that's really bad.
But everything just seems slightly too long.
That is a shame.
You're watching him, walk through the forest. Literally, just walk through the forest to his next destination, sort of thing, And at first you're like, God, I'm totally with this. I'm totally with this. And then you get to the point where you're like,
they probably should have done that once.
Yeah, or maybe just once or twice. But
yeah, because we don't do that with film.
No.
You don't, like, when two characters go somewhere, unless there's a lengthy dialogue scene, which clearly this killer isn't talking while they're walking.
No, not at all.
Unless there's dialogue, we don't film characters traveling. Like, imagine a film where people just walk from one place to the other.
Yeah.
Like, that never happens for a reason.
Going to the shops. Watch me go to the shops.
It's a terror. That's not how films work. Now, obviously, you have a problem here that he's a silent killer.
Yep.
And what this film's really hit on is the reality that those kind of killers are not interesting whatsoever. That's why you wouldn't make a film centering around just them, because there's nothing.
Some of the kills are pretty cool. It's for the majority, I think, pretty much all practical. I think there's maybe one squish that was CG.
Right. Well, that's good.
Sorry?
I said that's good.
Yeah. There's some really cool ones. Like the very first one, he uses a what do they call it? A pulling knife. That they use for like shaving off wood. And that's really cool and really well done. And I like what he then does with the body is really cool. And he ends up at a ranger station where he gets that mask. Apparently is a firefighter's mask.
The mask is really cool.
It's a fucking awesome mask.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks awesome.
Yeah, he's a great design. He's really cool, actually. Initially, he's just a sort of zombified guy, really. They mostly keep him in shadow. Some of the sort of makeup is a little janky, but majority of it is. There's one really. I'm just slightly spoil one bit. There is one beautiful thing where, excuse me, two of the arguing people one of them has chucked the keys of they're going, I'm just going to leave, and the other one says, oh, you leave, go and find your keys. We froze the keys, right? And Johnny sees the keys, and there's a little car on the keys, and Johnny picks them up and goes and sits down with them, and he's like playing with this little car, and he takes off the mask, and there's this the camera actually shows you his face.
Okay.
So you get the sort of mangled, rotted away lips, and I was actually very impressed. I was honestly expecting it to be a little more janky, because the back of his head is what you see quite a lot of. So, and it looks a little rubbery, the back, at times. But when they actually reveal his face, it's like, oh, actually, that's pretty well bloody done. They clearly spent some time on this, and it's a really cool little sort of zombie face, if you like. But I was really impressed with that. There is one kill which is fucking awesome. It's one of the best kills I've seen in a slasher movie.
Okay.
And I won't spoil it what he does, but I will say it's to do it's the yoga girl kill.
Okay.
It's really fucking cool. I really loved it. It looks a little sort of janky, but it's practical and it really did the fucking trick for me. It's really fucking cool. I loved it. The kill after that, there's this. He uses a like a mechanical log splitter.
Okay.
And it just goes on too long.
Like every other shot of this movie, apparently.
Yeah, it's like, oh, good. This would have been much more effective if you'd have just. So he again, I'm not going to spoil it. He does one thing to the person, and then he does the next thing to him, sort of thing. And it's like, because the machine itself is slow, it slowly pushes this sort of like axe blade into the wood or the person, if you like. It's already a slow scene, but the fact that he does one thing and then the next thing, it's like, no, you should have just done the one thing. You didn't need to keep going with this scene. It's too fucking long.
Yeah.
And it almost all the scenes just go on that little too. It was actually, with the exception of that actual kill, the yoga girl kill. With the exception of that one, almost all the others go on just that little too long. And there were some wonderful shots there. There's a really good one of looking. He's chasing two of the kids, as it were, and you're looking down. It's like a helicopter shot, or a drone shot, I guess you'd say these days. It's a drone shot looking down, and it looks brilliant, really wonderful. And there's nothing wrong with it. He frames the woods great. There's nothing wrong with how he does it. The shots of him walking through the woods and walking through the fields and stuff are really cool.
Yeah. And
you enjoy it for the first couple of minutes.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like it should have happened the first time, and then maybe after that, cut it down.
Yeah. And then for the last half an hour, you're following one of the people.
Yeah, because they obviously realise this is not going to work as a concept.
And again, that just goes on too long.
Like, and also, it's clear that this should have just been a YouTube short, really.
Yes.
That they've made into a feature.
That's the main problem with it, is the fact that it's already a short movie. It's already an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But if you cut off, you could lose a half an hour at least.
Yeah, you need to characterize your monster if you're going to have your monster in it. I think that slightly different, because it's a comedy, or more comedy than this, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil,
that's brilliant,
does this fantastically, where it shows the killer. Obviously they're not actually, they're but you get this whole misunderstanding, and you see the like killers and versus the normal people, and I think it does that kind of thing seemingly a lot better than this does here.
Yeah.
And also, like I said, of all the characters to follow, a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees, the worst kind.
Yeah.
Even Freddy Krueger, you could be like, okay, there could be some interesting stuff here. But you're like, Jason Voorhees, like, what the fuck is he going to show us? Nothing. He's going to be wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah, and Freddy's going to be constantly chatting.
Yeah.
Freddy's going to be constantly.
There's going to be things going on, and he has an interesting backstory beyond, he just drowned once.
Yeah.
And he saw his mum get killed. That's it. And he doesn't speak ever, apart from when he talks to his mum in, Jason vs. Manhattan.
And, we do get, all those movies have scenes where you're actually with him walking around for a bit.
Yeah, of course.
And the best part of the newer Halloween sequel was just following.
Oh, the one shot, yeah. But the whole movie like that would have been awful.
But it's exactly, that's it. For the whole movie, it would have kind of been dull, because it is. Yeah. It's just a mute big dude wandering around the woods or the streets or whatever, depending wherever you put him, So it's. Honestly, I would say it's almost worth watching just for that kill. Yeah. Because that kill is so good. And, the monster, if you like, itself is kind of cool. It's a nice design. Obviously, it's not original. It's like you said, it's just basically Jason. So it's not really original or anything. I mean, even his backstory is similar. So, I mean, I would honestly struggle to recommend it to even slasher film fans.
That is a shame.
Because, you expect a certain amount of stuff from a slasher movie, and sure, this has got kills in it, and it's got some very good ones, but it doesn't have the same feel because, you never really get to know any of these kids because there's only one real shot of where you see them in, talking around the campfire.
Yeah.
And sure, you don't need to know the kids, but and most of the time they're only ciphers anyway. But you take away that, and you're left with a boring monster walking around. So running around, walking around.
Yeah.
So it's annoying because it looks good.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the effects. The effects are really good. I'd probably say, this is going to appeal to nobody other than slasher film fans, I think.
And maybe not even them.
And then I think even some of those will be put off by it. I mean, I would recommend it to those. I'd recommend it to slasher fans. I'd say you'd probably get a kick out of it.
I will probably watch it at some point.
Yeah, but I couldn't recommend it to anybody else. Not even your standard horror fan is going to enjoy this, I don't think. Other than some creative kills, I can't recommend it. So, meh.
Yeah.
It's a very disappointing movie because you can see what they were doing, and it's not really an incompetent movie, other than like you said, if it was been a short, if it had been a half an hour, 40-minute short, it would have been better. It would have been attention would have been fine. It would have been good, but because it's not even that long a movie. It's just that everything feels just a couple of minutes too long, and it just puts you off.
Yeah. Oh,
so
well.
It's a recommendation for slasher fans, but nothing else.
And that is the last movie for today. I did see today the trailer for the fantastic looking Christopher Reeve documentary.
Oh, okay.
DC are doing. Looks brilliant. There's been a real glut of superb documentaries. There was Still, Michael J. Fox. There was Val.
Yep.
We're getting all of these great documentaries on actors.
I haven't seen the Gene.
No, I haven't seen the Gene Wilder one yet. I really want to. That's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah.
But DC are doing this one on Chris Reeve. I think it's one of the first things that DC have put out by them. Their new thing.
Okay.
And it looks fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's not very much of it. It's kind of got Superman in it as a result of it being Chris Reeve, but it looks like it's the Chris Reeve story, and it looks amazing. Quite frankly,
that is okay. I'm going to be a bit mean here.
Okay.
Should they really be reminding us of Christopher Reeve's Superman right now?
Well, it was made. I think it is published through DC, made probably by the Chris Reeve Foundation.
Yeah.
I agree. It's almost as bad. I mean, this movie looks great, so I'm glad.
Yeah. No, that's.
But that aside, from a studio perspective, it's almost as bad as releasing The Crow in 4K before you release your shit Crow film. It's just not a good idea. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I guess maybe they just want to make some money. It looks like a very good documentary. Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, and Christopher Reeve is one of those actors that I
Just
don't think
it's always came across like
anybody
a
had a
really
bad
nice
word to say
guy.
about.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a wonderful guy, and
Uh,
to be honest, best Superman we've had.
yeah, I think so. I think that's fair to say.
So, yeah, I will definitely watch that.
Yeah.
So I've got just a few little things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found so far the only thing that makes me interested in Tron Ares.
I have found nothing yet. Well, apart from I guess Jeff Bridges is coming back. That's the only thing that I was.
Yeah, there is that, but I'm not with that. So the only thing that I found that is a positive
Soundtrack.
is Nine Inch Nails are doing the soundtrack.
It's a positive, but fuck me, they've got an uphill battle.
Yeah,
That Daft Punk soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks ever
Yeah.
put together.
but they're split up now, so
No, I know, but I'm just saying anyone doing a soundtrack sequel to that has. I mean, Nine Inch Nails, wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure
so
it'll be
Ben's
good.
done so many fucking film scores that are amazing.
Yeah.
He's not he knows what he's doing, and I think Nine Inch Nails could work really well for a Tron movie.
Yeah.
So so far that's the only thing that's made me think, okay, the soundtrack might be good then.
Yeah.
I still don't want to see a fucking what's his bloody name? Is the bad guy, isn't it?
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah, he's the bad guy. Like,
So I hear.
do we have to?
No, I don't have to.
And I still no word on whether Bruce Boxlight is coming back.
That
as far
to
as
me
I'm aware,
is
he's
fucking.
not.
That to me is fucking bizarre.
So does that mean we're going to have a really janky?
Are we going to have a Tronless Tron movie? Is that what you're telling me?
We're going to have no Tron at all, or a very janky Tron.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Well, we'll see. I have so little faith in Disney that I just fear it's going to be awful.
Yep.
Um.
One that I thought might appeal to you.
Mm.
I know you like this particular character.
Oh.
James Wan is in development talks for a Creature from the Black Lagoon movie.
I have seen that. I haven't seen the movie. I've seen the announcement of the thing. Yeah. I mean, hopefully the original has such heart. I just are they gonna ever come close to that? And also, didn't we fucking do this with The Shape of Water? I mean, I know it's a very different film. The Shape of Water is not trying to be Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's a fucking love story. It's quite different. But
it certainly
But my God, was it a perfect story?
Yeah.
I'm gonna struggle to see a modern adaptation and not think of that movie, which is
James
brilliant.
Wan, he's mostly hits, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Misses,
certainly box office wise, he does well. Regardless, but.
So at least it's in sort of hands that are relatively competent.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how it how it plays out. It's interesting that seeing over the years how many people have tried to get one done. So we've got John Landis, Ivan Reitman, Gary Ross, all tried to get versions done that never came about.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that they've tried a number of times but never quite got there. And there's no guarantee that this one is either. But I think they were planning to do one for their Dark universe, weren't they? But,
yes.
That whole thing fell apart, so that never came about. So I mean, it's at least a positive in what so far, that it could be okay.
Yeah.
So here we go. Our sad part of the show. Gina Rowlands, 94, wonderful actress. Mostly known for the movies she did with her husband John Cassavetes. Really great movies. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those ones. Child is Waiting, Women Under the Influence, stuff like that. Really,
Mm-hmm.
really good movies. Yeah, wonderful actress. And also Alain Delon,
Yeah.
88, who I think most people I know would know him from Le Samurai.
Yeah.
Really great French actor. So yeah, there you go.
Mm.
Two wonderful actors that will be missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of it. I think. I don't think there's anything else that really grabbed my attention. The War of the Rohirrim trailer was a bit
Underwhelming.
give with one hand, take away with the other.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god, why do they do this to us?
I don't know, these animated movies, man. I feel the same. Like people were going like real heavy praise on this Terminator animation. I think it looks fucking awful.
I'm gonna watch it.
I was like, are we watching the same trailer? It looks terrible.
I don't get that one at all.
No, I really don't get it. But yeah, I guess
what's even worse than that is fucking Cameron says he's working on another.
Oh, Cameron just
like, what the fuck, dude? Really?
Cameron has lost. He's lost all credibility with me. He always bigs up the latest Terminator movie and says it's great, and then once people have gone to see it and the reviews are terrible, he's like, no, it was trash. Yeah, but the next one's really great. It's like, no, fuck off, mate. Like, yeah. Keep making your crappy Avatar movies.
Oh, I did see one that I thought was kind of weird and funny, actually. Nicolas Cage is going to play John Madden.
Okay.
It's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it would be it's a bad choice.
No.
I just think it's a strange one.
Yes, I'd go with that.
And it's not that I don't think Cage could pull off Madden. I mean, admittedly, I've only ever seen small interviews with Madden, and I only know Madden through the American football games.
Yes.
So my knowledge of him is quite limited, but it's there. It's it's one of those. I know how much of an icon, he is for American football. But I did think that was a bit of a strange one that they chose Nick Cage. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably more likely to watch it now.
Yes, yeah, I guess.
Who it is, but there you go. But yeah, I think that was kind of it. There's a. Have you seen the Substance trailer yet?
No.
Check that out. It's a really fucking good trailer.
I will do.
Really want to see that movie. Looks very looks very body horror-y.
Oh, cool.
With oh no, I'm gonna forget her name. Demi Moore. Demi Moore starring as an actor who is she's an older actress, so it's it's kind of over for her, and she gets given the opportunity to take this substance which unlocks your DNA and makes a new you.
Okay.
But you
literally
have to not abuse it. And as you see from the trailer, she clearly does.
Of course.
So I thought that was a really cool trailer. I'm really looking forward to that one.
I will. I'll give it a watch.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
I think there's much else.
Well, we will be back next week with a war film.
We are.
I think we've agreed, but just in case we change our mind, we'll be back with a war film next week. Oh no, well,
no, we agreed.
We're Eagles Dare, right?
So Eagles Dare is what we agreed. I think.
Superb
I think we're
film.
both happy with that.
I've not watched it for ages, so I'm quite excited to rewatch that. Actually, yeah.
It's a movie that I watch whenever it's on telly.
Yeah, it's one of your favorites.
Often,
which is all the time. Yeah.
Although I don't watch much telly at the moment these days, but
no,
it is one of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
My wife hates it, and she hates it. I keep watching it.
Oh, well, she's going to be annoyed this week because you're going to watch it again.
She's going to be really annoyed this week.
But yeah, cool. Well, yes, we will be back next week with Where Eagles Dare. Until then, stay safe, take care, and we'll catch you next time.